Thank you for auditing Professor Skye's Record Review, the always positive new music review show hosted by a French professor who's going to challenge himself a little bit today. You see, last week was a very good one for me in terms of subscribers and views, but I covered a lot of music that is very well known and very well reviewed. Kid Cudi and Taylor Swift and Paul McCartney. So today I wanted to go way off the grid and cover something that is probably not being covered by a lot of people in this country or even in this language. You see, because I listen to a lot of French hip-hop, the sort of algorithm on Tidal and on YouTube Music often gives me hip-hop that is not from America. And sometimes I listen to it, and often it's bad and often it's good, and I don't usually review it because it's like, who's going to watch this? But I don't care. I'm going to watch it. I'm going to talk about it. I'm going to be talking about the album Snoop Forever by Kweku Smoke. Now, first of all, I need to just say that this album appeared to me like an impenetrable object. I had no concept of how to approach it. I mean, first of all, I see the cover, it's largely in black and white. It's got like a couple of kids and a clock, and it says Snoop Forever. So I'm like anticipating listening to this and thinking it's going to be about Snoop Dogg, the American rapper. I do a little bit more digging. I find out it is from a rapper who's from Ghana. Now, I know a little bit about Ghana because I teach French, and if you teach French, you have to know a little bit about Africa. So I know a little bit about the Côte d'Ivoire, the Ivory Coast, which is the country, the French-speaking country right next to Ghana, and I've actually prepared a little bit of a talk once on the history of chocolate, and chocolate was first brought to Africa through Ghana, and then the French copied them in Côte d'Ivoire. But that was about it. That was basically all I knew. Former English colony, and it was next to the Ivory Coast, and that it produces a lot of chocolate. So what I had here was a very, I wouldn't even call it a superficial understanding. It was a zero understanding of what this music was going to be. Except I listened to it, I could hear the sound, I liked the sound, I liked the rapping, but I didn't know anything. So I'm going to take you along with me as I came to understand this album, the research that I did, which is not a lot. I did half an hour of research maybe, to not only try to understand this artist better, but to understand Ghana better, and to understand the fact that there's a great rap scene happening in Ghana. And of course there is. There's probably a great rap scene happening in every country in Africa, in every country in the world. Hip-hop is one of the easiest to adopt art forms that has ever been created. As I like to say, it is the soccer of music, as opposed to rock and roll, which is kind of like the hockey of music. You need a lot of equipment, a lot of tools. With hip-hop, you don't need as many tools. So let's go on this little journey. Now, the most important thing to know is just a little bit more about Ghana. I printed out a picture of its flag so you can see it, just so you know. That's the Ghana flag. Of course, language is quite important in all these cases. As far as I can tell, he raps primarily in Twi, T-W-I. I'm not exactly sure how to pronounce that. Twi. Something like that. It's not Twi, it's Twi. Now, there's basically no lyrics anywhere on the internet for this entire album. There's no real biography that I could find of Kweku Smoke on the album. As a matter of fact, I found, when I looked him up, the first thing that I found was this from something called Popnable, and it says Kweku Smoke from Kazakhstan. So unless he is like doing some kind of Borat thing here and he really fooled people, he's not from Kazakhstan. Kazakhstan and Ghana are actually two very different countries. So how do I approach this? Like the first thing that I had to do was just I did a little bit of research on Ghana. I learned that it's one of the more successful examples of a post-colonial country in Africa, that it still has good ties with England, that it has good ties with its neighbors. There's not a lot of civil war. It was one of the original founders of the non-aligned movement, along with Yugoslavia, Indonesia, and India, and Egypt. That it's got a pretty healthy economy, and in general is considered to be one of the great success stories of Africa. I didn't know that. I didn't know anything. And this is the thing. I imagine a lot of my viewers are going to be African of this video, and it's just true. Americans do not learn enough about Africa. We don't learn a lot. And that's part of the reason why I wanted to review this album. It's forced me to really think about this country. And I think about other countries for my living, as someone who teaches French and Francophone culture. But still. So, I learned all that, but then the music, right? Let's just talk about the music. It's mostly kind of drill music. So, like trap style beats, but a little bit more ambient, a little bit more dark in terms of the production. Kweku Smoke himself has a very charismatic voice, a very good flow. He mostly stays away from annoying, sappy songs that are sung. And the most interesting thing for me is just the language play. I don't know, this is one of the hardest to understand albums that I've ever heard. And I've heard language, the reason why is because I speak English and I don't speak Twi. And the way that this rapper goes in between English and Twi is just like, it is completely incomprehensible. Like, you cannot follow it at all because just every once in a while a word will show up and he'll be like, okay, the man them, I pull up in my Benz, and like, wait, what? Because already there's the accent on the English, and then there's the passage into the other language. And part of what makes it great, and this is why I suggest at least listening to one song no matter what you do, is it opens up new possibilities for an MC. And this is true in French as well. I talk a lot about French hip-hop using other languages, but it's not to this extent in French hip-hop. This is just pure, just whatever is the most effective way to communicate whatever this person is feeling. It doesn't matter if it's English or Twi, it just comes out. And it allows there to be lots of interesting play between the different sonorities of the language, the different sounds, the different way that the words are formed. It's really quite interesting. The production is very well made and very good. It's hard because I don't have a high appreciation for drill beats in general. I think they're fine, but I rarely hear a drill beat and go, oh, that one's great. They just sort of all kind of fit an atmosphere more than kind of standing out. But it's mostly produced by someone named A-Town TSB. And this is what's great about hip-hop, is that, I think every country must have somebody who refers to the place where they live as A-Town. But do you know what A-Town is? It's the capital of Ghana. Do you know what the capital of Ghana is? I didn't. Accra, which apparently means ants. So this was the first level of trying to figure out about this artist and listening. Fortunately, and this is why the internet is so great, this is why whenever people despair about what the internet is doing to humanity and social media, I want to turn it around and say it also has the capacity to teach great empathy and understanding of other cultures. There happens to be a half-an-hour interview with Kweku Smoke that came out last month on some, just local Ghanaian TV show called Muse Africa. And it's an interview with him, and through that, I finally started to understand this album, and I finally started to unlock it. I listened to the album probably 3 times before I saw this interview, and then the 4th time, after watching the interview, it completely changed. It turns out that he's not from Accra. He's from a different place called Kumasi, which is more inland in Ghana. Accra is right on the border, and Kumasi is inside. And it's part of the Ashanti region, part of the Ashanti people. Some of the most rich cultural history in Ghana comes from the Ashanti region. And I learned just through this, and then learned through looking up little words, that the place where he's from, Kumasi, is often called Kumerica, which is a clumsy portmanteau of Kumasi and America. And it's some kind of thing where the youth there are dressed so much like Americans and act so American and show off wealth and have this kind of American mentality that Kumasi is more like Kumerica. I then looked up even further once I had this little breadcrumb of information that Kumasi and Kumerica, and I looked that up in Google, discovered a wonderful complex article from the UK where they talked about this movement, about Kumerica, and about this kind of music, right? This, what is called Asaka music, drill music from Ghana, from this one particular town. And it turns out they don't even just speak Twi. They speak a specific kind of slang in which they shift consonants around. The example they give in the article is casa means talk, which becomes saka. So this is kind of like verlan in French rap, the same thing, messing around with syllables. It's youth culture, it's discussing, it's creating codes and ways of having it be difficult to understand. So even if I was able to parse out the difference between English and Twi easily. And even if I spoke Twi, I wouldn't be able to understand this. Whew. Now, through this interview, it gets even deeper, because this is the thing. You learn about some other country, and you learn about their music scene or some little thing, and then you try to overgeneralize and oversimplify. Yes, there is a drill scene in this town of Kumasi. But this guy who I'm reviewing isn't even an official part of the official crew. So there you go. It's such a rich scene that you have insiders and outsiders of a subgenre, of a subgenre, of a dominant musical force. And this is the thing that I find most fascinating about the idea of Kumerika and about African hip-hop itself, is just the interplay between African and African-American culture, right? It's just wild. You know, I often say, if you like any music with a drum beat, thank an African, right? That's how Western music got so interesting rhythmically. That's where all of our drums come from, right? So, like, rap never would have existed without Africans being forced into slavery, into the New World. That wouldn't have happened. Most music would not have happened if not for that horrible, horrible thing that happened. And then now we have the music of the Americas being imported back. And of course, this has happened before, but there's something about it that makes it so powerful that hip-hop is so dominant in American culture, is so dominant in all cultures. To then have it go back and be performed and have Africans acting like African Americans and then having their own term being used for them. I think it's a fascinating example of sort of this weird transatlantic, international African influence that is seen everywhere that you look. And you have to just sort of like blind yourself to pretend that we don't live in a world that is largely formed by Africans, right? I mean, do we ever say that or think that in our daily life? No, you know, we just give all the credit to... Anyways, okay, I don't want to go too far on that, but I think it's quite interesting. I mean, just speaking of like history and how we're not taught history in America, you know, that whole part of Africa, so I had this old map up there. You know, each part of the coast was defined by what they exported, right? So the Ivory Coast exported ivory. Ghana used to be called the Gold Coast. It was the capital of the Gold Coast. They exported gold. And next to them was the Slave Coast. So, you know, like when we think about, you know, colonization and slavery and society and history, I think it's important to remember that there was on the map for a long time some place that was just defined in which they equated slaves to ivory and gold. It's pretty amazing. One thing I would say about this album is that it also shows the vibrance of Ghana rap music, because every song, with the exception of one or two, has a featuring. I will say that potentially that shows a weakness on the part of Kweku Smoke himself. Maybe a little bit insecure. You know, even the name Kweku Smoke is, at least according to the interview, a direct relationship to Pop Smoke. Like, it seems like he's really trying to like glom on to one particular artist, and then he's trying to sort of hide behind featurings, which I don't think he needs to do, because the album itself is very, very strong. In the interview, I learned what the title means. Snoop Forever, right? That's what this is called, right? Yeah, Snoop Forever. Snoop was the name of his brother who died right before the album was made. So, okay, now we're getting there. Now I have some more context. Now the heart of this album starts to become clear. This is what's amazing about listening to this. The first 4 times, I had no idea it had any heart at all. The lyrics I could pick up were mostly just about like making money and being rich and showing off, right? But it turns out there's this whole other thing happening. So what I want to do is play you a little bit of the intro to this album, okay? The intro of the album has what I assume is a recording with a phone call with his mother. I don't know. I can't hear, but this makes sense with the concept of, you know, the idea of a dead brother. And I'm going to play you a little bit of the beginning. I want you to hear the excellent production by A-Town TSB. I want you to hear the interesting flow and the way that Kweku Smoke goes in between English and Twi, and it's just, you can't keep up with it, but it creates such a great attacking flow. He has to work, everything he does, he has to do for his family. Like you'll hear that, and then the rest you'll hear words here and there. It's actually a little bit like the way that you hear it when you're learning a language and you take a oral exam and you have to, a listening exam, and you have to listen to something. Like you hear chunks, but then other parts get grayed out. And that's kind of how this is. So let's listen to a little bit of the intro from Kweku Smoke, Snoop Forever.
For the whole family, that's why no be ashamed. Me and Skye down in the junkie. I swear me one yama can nenya. But me catch you on kilo, come make it track with me on the same beat. Plans up on it 3 hours at 24, but could delay, cause I don't do what me one before. See how far they never thought that we could get here from the poor. But now they can see the flex on I saw. Got friends that be taking up past my level. Got friends that be looking at me like a devil.
So that all started and ended with English, but then in the middle had the Twi all over the place. You heard the ominous kind of epic nature of it. Then we get to the next track, On the Streets, a very catchy chorus where he's just saying on the streets and then a whole bunch of stuff in Twi that ends with Obya, which I don't know what it means. I can't find translations to this album. I can't find anything about it except that this guy is from Kazakhstan, which he's not. If there are Kweku Smoke fans, please tell me what all these songs are about. I'd like to know. A nice guest appearance on here with someone who has kind of a Jay-Z-like cadence, which is cool. The production on this is really nice with this vocal layering on top of the whole track. Then we get to a song called Kwashi N-words. I mean, it's N.S. And I don't know what this is about. Again, I don't know what it's about. There's talking a lot about coco vanille, which sounds like it's chocolate and vanilla, and Ghana is the world's #2 producer of chocolate. I don't think that's what it's about. I don't know. Lots of skirt, skirt in the background. Tons of skirt, skirt. If you like the skirt, skirt atmosphere in hip-hop, this is a good album for that. The next track is called No Time, where he might mention fufu. I sort of understand that. That's a famous African food that they eat a lot in Ghana, I assume. It was a cool kind of like out-of-breath part of the song. We're sort of talking about brands, Versace and Nike. There's not too much of that in the album, but it's a nice breakup of the flow. This song is basically all in English, but I don't suggest it necessarily, right? It has a guest rapper, Suspect OTB, who is a British rapper, and it's interesting hearing just a totally different accent on here. The next track is called Vim, which is the most intentionally sort of aggressive, aggravating, kind of stupid song. To the morning, to the day. There's some cool kind of a singing, rapping by Joey B on here, and just great alternating rhythms in general in the flow. The next track, Serious, has just so many noises and layers, a very well layered album. Like there's a very invasive traps, hi-hat. I guess that's part of the drill influence, just the hi-hat's even more present. Cool kind of insane vocals, just insane ad-libs. Some of the craziest ad-libs I've ever heard, like basically just screaming. The next track is called Obusi Lynx, and this is cool because it has a sample, and you don't hear samples in many hip-hop. As far as I can tell, Smokey Robinson, who wrote the song it sampled, Smokey Robinson and the Miracles, go into the go, go, ha, 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 go into the go, go. That song is sampled, and it's very interestingly mixed in with the trap music. I don't know if it has to do with the lyrics, but it's a nice example of something that you don't hear too often, which is trap beats being mixed in with a sample. Often the simplicity and the ease of making a trap beat means that you don't have to think about the complexity of sampling. So it's nice to see them here together. We then get to 3 tracks, which I'm just going to go, which I don't like. 3 tracks where it gets kind of singy, ayalolo, kind of these quasi-Latin rhythms. Of course, the Latin rhythms also come from Africa, so there you go. Nice kind of guitar in back. Maybe this is more of a traditional African rap song because the guitar is, sounds very African to me in the way that it's played. I don't know. Akanoba is the next song, all in English, and then it seems to be sort of a sex song about like how good they are at having sex. And then Tonight, totally singing, like kind of a weak beat, kind of a cool voice box effect at the end, but I just don't like it. And then we get to the next track, Promises, and we're back. It seems like he knew he had to release some soft, weak songs, and so he put them all together, and then you can just skip those three and then go to Promises. Really cool, like unclear words just in Twi, and then Promises in English jumps out. Haunting kind of bell sound, and the rhythm here sounds almost polyrhythmic at times, and this is maybe my favorite song for the flow, how he's able to alter his flow rhythmically with this language mixing up. This has the appearance by a rapper called Sarkodie, who I'd never heard of before 3 days ago, and it turns out is like the biggest name in Ghana hip-hop. And there's a good reason. His guest appearances are by far the best, the most interesting. He's really great at doing fast rapping and slowing it down and just has great cadence. And I'm going to look up Sarkodie now because he seems like he's probably a really great artist there. The track More only gained importance to me when I understood that this album is dedicated to his dead brother. So he talks about how he's going to use one of his brother's expressions, who'd always say, moi, like a very strong accent, moi, like more, but with an accent that I can't imitate. A little bit more laid back. It's almost all in English with some Twi, and it's all about lessons from his brother. And you know, I am a youngest brother. I have 3 older brothers, and there's something that I appreciate about this cover, you know, showing him being so small with his brother. There's a kind of humility to it. I'd say there's a humility that comes through in his voice anyway. That he's bragging about everything. He's very proud of himself. But there is a kind of humility here, and I think that comes through here. There's almost like a harp sound too. It's good. The song "Pull Up" is next. Kind of a standard rap, you know, pull up in my fancy car, but very cool vocal effects in the chorus where they say "pull up" in a really cool way. It's with a guy named Hordzi, who also produces. A great mixture of English and Twi when Kweku comes in. And I think there's even a sort of mixture of Jamaican patois, like they refer to mandem, which is the plural of a man in Jamaican dialect. So I don't know if this is also Ghanaian dialect, or if this is this whole transatlantic thing that I've been talking about from the beginning, where reggae comes back to influence Africa after reggae, right? I'm not quite sure. Let It Go is his vocal imitate. You know, he's just singing the song from Frozen. No, he's not. Let It Go is just another rap song, basically all in English. You know, Forget It Because I'm Rich. Not great, but it's okay. Listening to the instrumental at the end, though, I realized that I really actually kind of like this song. The instrumental is perhaps better than the rhyming on this track. The track Fine Girl is enough in English. I was listening to this album once. I was on my couch. My daughter was playing Minecraft next to me, and she was liking this album quite a bit, you know, and she kept asking, you know, I was telling her about Ghana, I was telling her about hip-hop, all these things. But then this song is enough in English that I had to skip it, because it's sort of like that song I Like to Move It, in the way that it's like a catchy, fun, boppy song, but then lyrically it's just all about objectifying women. Fine girl with the boobs and a face. That's what they say. Fine girl with boobs and a face. I don't know if there's a neck or shoulders or anything else attached there, but there's at least a boob and a face. But it's a very cool beat, though. Kind of futuristic. Ooh, like they kind of keep saying that along with this kind of bloopy beat, a little bit staccato. It's a really good song. It's just unfortunately the lyrics mean I can't listen to it with my daughter. And then probably my favorite track on the album, maybe my favorite track, I don't know, is Yadin, which has these great haunting vocals in the back. It's mostly in Twi. And I even watched the music video of this. It's kind of a typical American video, you know, women in $100 bills, American $100 bills, wearing fine clothes. But Kweku is the most relaxed and charismatic in this track. It's just excellent. It's excellent the way he delivers the chorus. According to the YouTube comments, Enshwa Yadin means like shut up if you don't have money. So I guess that's what he's saying. I guess Yadin means shut up. Maybe I should Yadin, but trying to pronounce Twi. But this is great because it has his charismatic flow. And then Sarkodie comes back. And Sarkodie just has this great, amazing flow. He's just spitting pure fire the whole time. It's really good. So there you go. I'm going to get to Eminem. I'm going to do my whole breakdown of his lyrics and his albums and his importance. And okay? But let's take a little bit of time to appreciate the amazing international reach of this great African American art and its stranglehold on all cultures, and the way that we can use that stranglehold to understand the other cultures, right? I feel like I understand something a little bit better about Ghana by listening to this music and by trying to learn about it. And hopefully you've learned something from me too. Okay, well, for the president of Ghana in 1957, who freed it, whose first name was Kwame, but I forget his last name. For him, put it in the comments. What was the name of that guy? He was apparently a very important figure, a real like visionary of like independence and freedom. Kwame something. Okay, there's the camera.